Hey everyone, it is Paul and Kyle back with yet a brand new episode of the Hip Hop Debate. It's been a little. We've had it's the holiday season, just things going on. Uh we didn't stop. We're back. We didn't we know you guys couldn't wait for another episode, so we're not done. We're back and better in the new year, and we're going to keep it going. So in honor of being not having the last few episodes the last few weeks, we're going to do our year end. It's still the first week of January, so we're still it's not like we're doing it in February. So it's our year end episode. We're going to go over three big topics in the episode: our top 5 artists, our top 10 songs, and then our top 5 albums, not in that order. But we are going to talk about who were the top in each of those categories in 2021. So obviously, before we get into that, we're going to get into what's new in hip hop the last, you'd say, few weeks. So first, Roddy Ricch dropped his sophomore album, "Live Life Fast." I listened to it, so I'll wait. Did you happen to listen to it at all?
I listened to it.
Do you like it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it actually. I wasn't expecting to. I didn't really know what to expect, but I saw the hype that it was kind of getting, and I did enjoy the single that he released, "Late at Night." I thought that was a good
Yeah.
song. So that kind of got me interested in it. And once I heard it for the first time, I haven't really like taken like an in-depth listen to it, but
Yeah.
I've had it on like when I'm driving or kind of like when I'm just hanging out and want something different. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed the album. I liked a lot of the songs on it. One of them is actually in my top 10 for the year. So I won't reveal that one yet, but yeah, I liked a lot of the songs. I liked a lot of the features. And I just thought it was a good project for something that I wasn't really expecting to get a lot out of. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, what about you? How'd you feel?
So I listened to it, I think, once definitely in full and twice, like almost full, like all the way through. He's an artist to me. He's good. He's okay. Like, he has such a hype around him. I think obviously the box was like the biggest
Hmm.
song of 20 was, I don't even know what year that was, 2020, 2019.
Yeah.
Um, the box was such was a huge, it was the biggest song that year. And then he had a lot of hype, and I like it. I don't like his when he like does that singing and that
Mm.
like yelling almost, and I'm like, I just, it doesn't do it for me. But I like his features more than his own stuff. I've tried listening to his other album too. Please excuse me for being antisocial. That was his first album.
Hmm.
That's what the box was on, and a couple other
Yeah.
hit songs he had. I just, it's not bad. It's just I don't see, like, to me the work doesn't match the hype.
Hmm.
And he's like, like how someone's underhyped. He's, I think, a little overhyped. He's not a bad artist. He's just not on this, with especially with these newer guys, like on that level of a Lil Baby or a Lil Dirk, or, well, Lil Durk's been around for a while, but like these younger artists who are big now. And I understand why Lil Baby's big. I think Lil Baby's like really good. So like
Yeah.
there's other, like, he's an artist where he's he's pretty big, but I just don't see it. So it's a good album, just not anything I'm gonna probably listen to again.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I I think I'll probably revisit it a couple times, or maybe not a couple times like in like the rest of my life. Like I'll probably revisit a lot more, but it's definitely an album like I won't play like all the time, but like if I'm in the mood for it, I think I'll put it on. I just like his style a lot. I think it's a little bit different than some of the people who are like out there now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like he's kind of goofy, and I kind of like that too a little bit about him, is that he kind of adds like a little bit of like a silly persona almost in a way. So and I would agree. I like the box. Like I don't think a lot of people loved that song, and I personally just don't care for it. I didn't really see the hype in it. But some of the songs
TikTok.
on here I really, yeah, exactly. Um but like some of the songs on here I really enjoyed. Like I love Roller Coastin'. I think that's like kind of like a fun song, especially with like his like, kind of like roller coasting, like just going like that. And yeah, I love some of the features. Like I love his song with Ty Dolla Sign. I like the song with Lil Baby. 5 Foreigns, or yeah, 5 Foreigns on it. So yeah, so I like some of those songs a lot. And I don't know if I like every single track on it, because it's like
Yeah.
15 songs or 16 songs or whatever. So like there are some duds in it, but I think some of the better songs are really good that I would definitely want to like revisit some more. So so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. So we'll move on to the next topic, and I'll let you take the reign on this one. Nas dropped a new album. I personally, obviously, I'm not nearly as big as Nas fan as you are. Was it a surprise album, or was he planning on
I,
dropping this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that it was a surprise. I don't think he like did any kind of like marketing or promotion for it up until
Yeah.
like maybe like the day before or like the week before maybe. So yeah, so it was a complete surprise, especially again because like, you know, he came out with King's Disease 2 this year, and now he's coming out with this other project, and yeah, it's a short one. It's only like maybe like 29 minutes. It's like 9 songs,
Yeah.
but man, he does it again, and
Yeah.
I was impressed. I was impressed again. Like I was really impressed, and again, it's all with Hit Boy, so it's like at this point, like these
Oh, it
guys should
is.
just team up. Yeah, yep,
Oh, I didn't know that.
it's all with Hit Boy. Yep. So at this point, like these guys should just like continue to team up for like the rest of their lives, because like it's just so good. Like they've now dropped 3 projects in 2 years that have all been like really good, and yeah, I was impressed. It's not in my top 5. I'll give a little spoiler alert, but it's not in my top 5, but man, it was hard not to put it in there because I really enjoyed it, and it's just going to be another project of his where I'm just going to keep revisiting because it's really good. And I don't think there's any tracks on it that are like complete like standouts, but it's just together it just makes a great project all in itself. So it was a great surprise, and I was happy to hear it, and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I just was, I think, over the weekend, like scrolling on Apple Music, and it was like new music, and Nas dropped an album. I was like, huh? It's like I didn't even know about it. So I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, it's short. Why not? I threw it on, and it is good. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
give everyone a hint. I just thought of a topic for future episodes, so uh, we'll talk about this in a future episode. But do you? So don't answer it, but I just am posing the question: do you think the last, say, 2 to 3 years for Nas even has helped his GOAT status, in terms of, say, people might have been like, all right, he started off hot and maybe not as much like later in his career, but then the last 3 albums he's had in the last 2 years have all been really, really good. Like, so it's
Yep.
like, he's like, all right, because it's one thing where a lot of rappers, especially, you know, him from the early 90s, and I won't dive too much in this because I could talk about this or the topic already, but they'll fade away very rarely.
Right.
You know, they won't adapt with the style, they won't. But he's been like, you know, it's 2020, 2021, and I'm dropping some of the best music of the year, if not, you know, arguably to some people the best. So how do you know?
Yeah. Not only the best music of the year, but like the best music of his career. Like some of the stuff that he's dropping lately has been way better than some of the things that he dropped like when he was at his peak. You know, like I don't know, like it's crazy. And kind of like what you were saying, like most people by this time in their careers, they're kind of like either falling off or they're just like not really like they're not at the same, but like they're kind of regressing. They still might be good, but like they're not making the same kind of stuff that they were making before. But like, I don't know, man. Jay-Z's not making this kind of music. Like, you know what I mean? And there's always been that rival of like, you know, him and Jay-Z's 444, I thought was great. It was awesome. But like, I don't know, like there's something about these 3 projects from Nas in the past 2 years that's made me like, damn, like he's still here. Like he is still here.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely a topic we'll have to dive into more. But yeah, it's been crazy. I when I saw that he dropped Magic, which is the newest project, I was like, another one? Like he's like, what is he doing? And like, and I'm also getting to the point too. It's like, okay, one of them has to be like average, or one of them is just going to be okay, because I keep thinking that every album he drops now is like a B side to the one that he dropped before, and maybe it is, but it's just so good. And yeah, I don't. We'll have to talk about it more because yeah, it's crazy what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I have to agree. I also just thought of another topic, but that's for now. And you might have seen it. I don't know. It's not that big of a topic. So I don't know if you saw, maybe last week or 2 weeks ago, Jay-Z said he's unbeatable in a verses.
Mm-hmm.
So did you see what Kodak Black said yesterday or 2 days ago? He said,
do I want to know?
He said he would beat Jay-Z in a verses, And if Jay-Z won, he would give him 15% of his masters.
Well, you might as well just give him the masters now then.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell are you saying?
That dude is delusional, man. He's
Jay-Z can have 20 tracks easily before you even reach one.
Oh yeah, easily. I don't
Easily.
even think, because I don't listen to Kodak Black
I don't
at
either.
all.
I don't even like
And
him.
so like, again, like somebody who, like, I'm not gonna say I'm like the biggest hip hop head like in the world. So, you know, it is what it is, but like I can't name one Kodak Black song off the top of my head. Like I couldn't do it. Whereas Jay-Z, if you give me some time to like think of all of the classic songs that he's had, like that it could take hours, and you know, just to talk about his whole discography, but I can't name one Kodak Black song. So the fact that he would even say that is just, he's got to be high. He's got to be high on something, because there's no way there's no way that he believes himself.
Confidence, man, I guess. I don't know. So, yeah, I was like, let me just bring that up real quick. It just popped in my head. I was like, what the fuck is this guy saying?
Seriously.
So yeah, next we'll talk about it's not really hip hop, but he's just such a big artist, and he's collab with hip hop artists a lot. The Weeknd, he's dropping his new album Dawn FM Friday, which when this drops, the Weeknd's album will drop. I'm excited for it. Jim Carrey's on 2 tracks. Lil Wayne is on it, Tyler the Creator, someone else too. I'm excited. I'm a big Weeknd fan, and I think this is going to be very, even though it's like Jim Carrey, because he could be dark, and Tyler the Creator and Lil Wayne, they're not as like, you know, pop as the Weeknd has been. But I think it's going to be very, as long as, you know, the first single, Take My Breath, if it's like anything like that, it's going to be very pop oriented, and I'm excited for it. He's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, I always get excited to listen to his projects, and I'm a little excited, but I'm also a little bit like worried that there are some really great rap features on it. And you're always excited to hear the names of like a Lil Wayne or Tyler the Creator or somebody like that. But I also don't know how they're gonna mesh well. You know what I mean? So like, I think the last time we talked about The Weeknd was when he released that song with Post Malone, and we kind of talked about how like they just didn't like mesh together. And so like I'm excited to hear like those guys on a Weeknd song. I'm just a little concerned as to like how it's gonna go, and I hope it goes well. But at the same time, it's like you wonder like how is he gonna have a chemistry with Lil Wayne, or how is he gonna have a chemistry with Tyler the Creator, because those two guys just themselves are very different than The Weeknd. Like they're more kind of like just like in your face, and just kind of like will say whatever the hell they want, and they're kind of like almost a little bit like rambunctious and chaotic a little bit. And The Weeknd is kind of more just like reserved and kind of chill, I guess. So I don't know, like I'm curious and I'm excited, but I'm also like a little bit worried that it's gonna be like disappointing.
So I'm excited for it. I definitely am a little nervous as well. I don't know how they're gonna, especially the 2 rap features. I don't know how they're gonna mesh. Especially, I think Tyler the Creator can maybe mesh with him a little more than a Lil Wayne can. Lil Wayne, because Tyler the Creator, like Igor, like he can make a slower, funky, or you could say a more melodic music. Lil Wayne, even if he makes a melodic song, he's not the one being melodic, because usually there's a feature on it. So that's where I'm like, I don't know, like unless The Weeknd gets like Metro Boomin to make another beat for him or something like that, like, and then that's where you could have it, and it has to be like a kind of more of a hip hop song. But on an R&B style song, I just don't see Lil Wayne sounding too well.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just more worried about like it says like featuring Tyler the Creator, but like I hope it's not just like Tyler like doing like a skit or like some kind of like spoken word. Like I hope he's rapping. Like I hope he raps. And same with like Lil Wayne. I hope he like drops like a rap verse rather than like a little like melody chorus kind of thing. Like, I hope that both of them are rapping, because again, for me, that would be a little bit disappointing if like Tyler the Creator comes on for like 2 lines, or you know what I mean? So but I'm excited. I think it's going to be different for The Weeknd, and I think that's exciting enough to just keep my interest. I just hope that it doesn't, let me down. So
yeah, I agree. One quick thing, when you said 2 lines, that made me think of when Drake dropped Pop Style with Kanye and Jay-Z on it, and
Yeah.
Jay-Z had 2 lines, and I was like,
Yep.
what the fuck?
And then he cut him out. He didn't
Yeah,
add him into the song.
he took Kanye off too on this album. It's just him. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
and it was worse. I was like, why would you? Whatever. That's
It's true.
yeah. And then I have one more thing, and then you had one thing you wanted to add. I just added it at the end, and you don't listen to him, so I don't think you have much to say. Gunna is dropping his Drip Season 4 album. Gunna has a great flows. His lyrics run of the mill. His flows I think are phenomenal, and he's on YSL, so has Young Thug a lot, and he has Wheezy the producer, and there's another big producer that signed to them, but he's dropping his last installment of his Drip Season series, and it's he has some good features on there. Obviously, like Lil Baby's on there, Lil Young Thug. Who else is on there? There's some big features on there, but I'm excited. I'll probably give it a listen or two. I like his singles or features or whatever. But yeah, he's dropping that one Friday, which sucks for him because dropping the same day as Weekend, your numbers, even though he's two different audience, they have two different audiences, but still, any one that's split like me, I'm going to the Weekend first.
Oh yeah.
So like, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm definitely excited to give it a listen this weekend, and yeah, hopefully it's good.
Cool. Yeah, I've never listened to like a whole body of his work before. I've only heard him on like verses, and he's never like, I've never been like, wow, that was terrible.
Yeah,
but I've just never, I've just never been into, like, he's never grabbed my attention enough to where I would be like, oh wow, I want to listen to a whole project of him,
Yeah.
So, but like if he's on a verse, like on a song, and does a verse on somebody's song, or he's on somebody's album, I'm like, oh okay, like cool.
Yeah.
But I've never been into him enough to like listen to a whole album or project or anything like that. So
yeah, I feel you. He's nothing, like, he's not anything crazy, but he's just like I like his flows a lot, so give that a listen.
Yeah. Cool.
And what was last, you had a topic you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so I was just going to quickly talk about Earl Sweatshirt. He's dropping a new album January 14th, so next week. And he's released 2 songs. One of them was called 2010, which I thought was a really good song from him. So definitely check that one out if you're interested in, like, Earl and kind of like his style. If you're a big Tyler fan, you probably listen to a lot of Earl Sweatshirt too. So he had that song, which I thought was really good. I was very pleased with it. And then he had another song called Tubula Rasa with Armand Hammer, which I've never heard of this guy before. And this song, it was just okay. It's 4 minutes long, and an Earl Sweatshirt song for 4 minutes can last a little too long sometimes, especially with like his kind of like monotoned voice, and his instrumentation is definitely like original, and it's kind of like his own, but it's not always like the most exciting thing. So that's just kind of how I felt about this one track. It took Earl like almost half the song to finally come on and say something. The first half of the song is completely devoted to this feature that he has on it, kind of taking over for like 2 verses. So that part was just kind of like a little bit not annoying to me, but I was just like, okay, like I was kind of hoping for like Earl to like come in a little bit earlier, or maybe they share like one like verses, so like they go back and forth. So so that song was just okay, but definitely check out 2010. I think that was a really good song, and those 2 tracks will be on his new album called Sick, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I saw that he's releasing the same day as Corday. Corday's releasing his sophomore album the 14th, which I'm very excited for.
Yeah,
cool. So now we're going to get into topics. Year end 2021. I think personally, I thought it was a great year for hip hop. I thought there was a lot of good songs, albums, moments in 2021 in hip hop, and we're going to recap it and go through it. So we're going to actually start with the top 5. We'll start with the top 10 songs of the year. We'll go with ease into it. So you want to go first?
Sure, I'll take it.
Or you want to do your 10 through 6, and then I'll go with my 10 through 6. Whatever. We'll see how it goes.
All right. So if I'm talking too long, just interrupt me and be like, okay, your time's done. We're moving on.
All right, I'll go now.
So my top 10 songs I just had two honorable mentions just real quick because they were on my list up until like maybe like 15 minutes before the show. And then I was like, you know what? There's two other songs that I think just kind of bump it. But my two honorable mentions are My Life by J. Cole, featuring Moray and 21 Savage. I think that was probably my favorite song from J. Cole's project. And, I just think it's a great song. And we've talked about it before on the show. I think everybody on that track does a great job with their own part. So that was just an honorable mention to me. And then Moray is also my other honorable mention with the song Quicksand. So I really like that song. I know it came out technically in 2020, but it was on his project that he released in 2021. So I just kind of threw that one in there. So those are my two honorable mentions. It was really hard to kind of place my top 10, but starting off at number 10, I have the song Maza with ASAP Rocky by Slow Tie. I don't know if you've ever listened to Slow Tie, but he's kind of like a British grime kind of rap artist, and it's just a really good song. And Rocky does his thing, so I really like that track a lot. My number 9 spot is Range Brothers by Baby Keem with Kendrick Lamar. I think that whole just like part, one part that gets me is just that Kendrick part where he's like top of the morning. Like I freaking love that part. And so yeah, that song is great. Lots of great beat changes. I'm glad you turned me on to it because I probably wouldn't have heard it if you hadn't done that. So thank you. And then my number 8 spot is Buzz Cut featuring Danny Brown. And that is by Brockhampton. I think that song is just a banger. And so it just gets me fired up and pumped up. So that is my number 8 spot. My number 7 spot is actually by Roddy Ricch, and it is All Good featuring Future. That song to me, I love that song. I love the very beginning when he's talking about, just sitting courtside watching Russell and LeBron and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know, that's something about that song just gets me pumped. So so that's my number 7 spot. My number 6 was the one that I just kind of threw in at the last minute. Can't believe I forgot to add it originally because I do love this song a lot. But for number 6, it's Industry Baby featuring Jack Harlow by Lil Nas X. I really dig that song a lot. I love Nas on it, but I really love Jack Harlow. I think Jack Harlow's verse is what sells it for me. So I have to include that one. And, there's, the music video that also goes with it. So it's just a great overall like body of work. So that's my number 6, I believe. And then number 5, have to give it to my man Nas with EPMD2. That song to me is one of his better songs in a while, but man, Eminem resurrected from the dead because his verse on that song is ridiculous. And so even though it's a Nas song, I particularly like it more for Eminem's verse. And so that's why I have it at number 5. My number 4, we're getting into like the finishing up here. My number 4 is another song that I added in last minute, and I forgot how much I like the song. But it was Lemon Pepper Freestyle featuring Rick Ross by Drake.
That song's so good.
I know. I really love it. And, it's just Rick Ross does his thing, but, there's so many one-liners and it's just so many like things from Drake that he brings to the table on that track. And it's a selling point. And I think, Wants and Needs was also a really good song off of that little EP that he made, but Lemon Pepper Freestyle to me is just the one that really sticks out to me the most. And one of the songs that this whole year I played on repeat a lot. So that's my number 4. And then number 3 is How It Feels by Lil Baby and Lil Dirk. Love that song. I just love their chemistry. I love how they kind of go back and forth, and just, lyrically, I know Lil Baby and Lil Durk aren't the best lyricists, but on these tracks on this album that they made, God, they have some of their best work. And I think that's just one song that kind of sticks to it. And then we get into my final 2. So my number 2 spot, I got to give it to Knife Talk by Drake with 21 Savage. I I still think that song makes me want to hear a whole album of them together. Like that's how good that song is to me. Like if you can make a song like that where I want you to just do more and just do more, then it's a good song, you know. So so I love 21 Savage's bars on that, and I love Drake's bars, and the music video is ridiculous. So
Yeah, it
so that's
is.
my number 2 spot. And then my number 1 spot, and it might be kind of a shocker because it's not like a big single or anything like that, but I'm gonna go back to Little Baby and Little Dirk, and I'm gonna say 2040 is my favorite hip hop song of the year. Like
Wow.
I think just the way that it starts off with the lyrics from Little Baby, I think it's great. I love Little Baby and Little Dirk's chemistry. I love the beat. Like the beat gets me so hyped, and I'm just like, you know, it just gets me so excited. And I don't know, there's just something about that song that just makes me, I don't know, feel tough, feel like, you know, macho in a way. So it just gets me pumped up. And to me, that's just kind of, I had to pick that song too because it is one of my favorite albums of the year, and I had to throw it in there. And I think that that's my favorite one on that whole album. So, so that is my favorite song, my favorite hip hop song, 2040 by Little Baby and Little Dirk, and that is my top 10 hip hop songs of 2021.
Wow. That's a good list. We have some similar ones. Uh, so
Awesome.
I have two honorable mentions as well. One is Death Row East by Nas. I love
Mm,
that song.
yep.
And then the other one is, it was something you said. What was your number 4 song?
My number 4, Lemon Pepper Freestyle.
Is Seeing Green by Nicki Minaj, Drake, and Lil Wayne. I think they all kill
Okay.
it. That's honorable mention
Yeah.
for me though. All
Cool.
right, so coming in for number 10 is Time Today by Moneybagg Yo. Moneybagg Yo is actually very good. He's a really good Memphis artist. I don't know how much you've listened to him. He has a lot of good, especially on that song. He has a lot of good like one-liners, and
Mhm.
it's a good song. Definitely check it out. Number
Cool.
9 is from Lil Baby and Lil Durk's album. It's my favorite song from that album. That's Facts. I
Mm,
love that song. Um,
yeah.
I just love that chorus. Um, and
Hmm.
I love both their verses as well, especially Lil Baby's.
Yeah.
Number 8, Lil Durk's also on this song, is Back in Blood by Pooh Shiesty. Um,
Okay.
that song goes so hard. And it was a banger, and it was one of the biggest hip hop songs of the year, but it's definitely one of my favorites. So that's coming in at number 8. Number 7 is my favorite song off of Off Season, Applying Pressure.
Mm,
Uh, I think I was about to say Jay-Z, J. Cole, just, I think his, like every line, he's just on that song specifically, he's just going in on every single line. I'm like, holy, like it's just what, a minute and a half, just nonstop bars. I'm like, holy shit. All right.
hmm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
um, so that's my number 7 song. That's my favorite song on that album. Um,
Cool.
Number 6 is what you had. Range Brothers uh,
Mm,
is my number 6 song. I love, that's my favorite song on that album, or one of my favorites. But that song, they both, Kendrick, just, it's so nice to hear him, and hear him drop a really good fucking verse.
yeah.
So that song, and the beat changes as you were saying, and let's get this shit. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's just. And then I love his ad libs too. And Baby Keem on the last verse, he's like, he's Baby
Hmm.
Keem. Yeah. So that's my number 6 song. So now I'm getting in top 5.
Cool.
Top 5 is Off the Grid by Kanye, 504, and Playboy Cardi. That song, honestly, the more I listen to it, the more I like it. It's
Hmm.
just, that song is so goddamn hard. The beat is just
Yeah.
insane on that song. And
Yep.
504's verse is one of the best verses of the year to me. He
Hmm.
kills it. So as you said, when we
Yeah.
were our first episode, when we reviewed that album, you love that verse. So uh,
Yeah.
he kills it.
Yeah. That was a tough one for me to not put on there because I did love that song a lot. But yeah, it's just too many other good songs. But yeah, 504's verse on that is ridiculous. So yeah, good pick.
Yeah. And then number 4 is Ski by Young Thug and Gunna. That song is just it was just a bop. It was just a banger. It was just a good like summer song, and it was a good just not good beat, just easy chorus. It was just a good like not chill song, but a good just banger. It wasn't anything, nothing crazy, nothing,
Mhm.
but it was just a good song from all the like the choruses were good, the chorus was good, the verses were good, the beat was good. So it was all elements were just really good on that song. So that's my number
Yeah.
four. So my top three. Um Number three is my favorite song off Donda. It is Come to Life. I
Mm.
just love that song. To me, that's one of his best overall songs um, that he's ever released. I just love that song. I think it's a great, just I don't know, the way you could feel his emotions, and you could just you feel it inspired. I don't know. Every time I listen to it, I feel inspired by that song. So that's my number three song. And number two is actually uh, is In Too Deep by Drake and Future. I absolutely love that song.
Wow.
That song is so
Okay.
good. And then that beat change and uh Drake
Hmm.
and Future, when that beat, like the first part is good. But that second part when Drake, the In Too Deep, nah, and then Future's like bridge and then his verse, that song goes, I love that song so much. And number one, my favorite
Cool.
song of 2021 is actually the same artist. It's a Drake song. And it's what you had at number two, Knife Talk. Knife Talk goes so
Hmm.
goddamn hard. Drake kills it,
It does.
and 21 Savage kills it. And then with Project Pat in
Hmm.
the beginning, I gotta feed the street. Like that shit
Yeah.
goes so hard, and the beat is
Yeah.
phenomenal. And 21 Savage, man, you can't say enough about him. His features and his own stuff too. He's getting better with time, and that was just another one where like he's toe to toe with Drake. And if you said that a few years ago, 21 Savage and Drake, you'd have been like, eh. But now he's toe to toe with Drake, and
Yeah.
to say that is he's shown improvement. And that song is, to me, that was the best song of the year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I I could totally see that, and yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said about it. It's just a great collaboration between the two. It really is. And it's so funny because like you wouldn't expect them to collab as well as they do, because they're two very different people. They're very different artists. They rap about very different things, but yet
Yeah.
when you get them on a track together, they both just have the same style and same kind of like almost the same attitude when it comes to like what they're rapping about. So yeah, it's just a great song, and the music video cracks me up.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Um,
Cool.
awesome. So now we're gonna get into the top five albums of the year. Uh, we were gonna do artists first, but we going into the artists, you kind of have to talk about their albums if they released any this year. So we're gonna go with albums first, and since you went first, I'll go first this time. So my top five albums, I'm gonna talk about them, but I'm not gonna go too in depth. I don't want to. I could talk probably forever. So number five is actually probably, it's definitely in your top five, is King's Disease 2 by Nas. To me, that's one of the obviously top five albums of the year. It's like we talked about, Nas is getting, seems like he's getting better with time, and even you might have mentioned, you've definitely mentioned, but your opinion might have changed, that this might even be better than the first one. Uh, so King's Disease 2 is just such a good album, and it's, for the traditional, some people, the hip hop heads, and golden era hip hop, it shows that, hey, that you can still make that type of music in this era. You don't have to have these trap beats or this certain style, these certain flows, or the
Hmm.
certain type of uh you know topics and stuff like that. You can still rap this way, and it's still good, and it's still relevant. And it's good that he's get with a guy like Hit Boy, who's can make that classic style, golden era beat, but still add a new twist to it, where it's still people like might not be into into traditional or 90s style hip hop, will find something like this appealing. So he said the same thing with Big Sean on Big Sean's, and he's The Game and Hit Boy are coming out with an album. I was like, why would you make an album with The Game? But they're supposedly, they have a project coming together. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
Kings of These Two, I think, is a great album, and I think Nas is, like, as we mentioned earlier, and we'll talk about in a future episode, he's staying relevant, and that's very hard for someone of his tenure to stay relevant. So his
Hmm.
his longevity, it's phenomenal. You don't see many artists in any music have that longevity, and to get arguably better, or just, you know, stay as good as you were when you came out. It's hard to deny. So
Yeah.
that's my number 5 album. I think that was a great album, and I'm excited. And like I said, Magic was also really good. Number
Hmm.
4 is Certified Lover Boy by Drake. That album has grown on me. If you asked me, you know, when it dropped or even a month after it dropped, I would have said no way, not even top 5. But that album
Hmm.
over the last few months has grown on me. It's definitely not, to me, not as even top 3 albums. It's to me, it's for maybe, you know, middle tier, maybe towards the top, you know, towards the top albums. But it's grown on me. His raps are definitely better than some of his previous albums. And he has some hits on there. It's Drake though, so it's what you expect. But you know, like, it's my top 2 songs of the year were from that album, and he's had some other great songs. We talked about The Remorse being one of his best closing tracks he's ever had, and even, like, I know you like the song a lot, but Champagne Poetry is going on me a lot. I listened to it the other day, and I was like, damn, this shit's just actually really good. And In the
Hmm.
Bible's growing on me.
Hmm.
What's the song with Travis Scott? Uh,
Oh, hold on. I'll find it.
that song's
I know
growing
which one
on
you're talking
me.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good album, and it's Drake, and he doesn't put out anything bad. So I thought it was a pretty good album, and it's grown on me over the year or the last few months.
Yeah. Fair Trade is what it was called.
Fair Trade, yeah, that song's grown on me. I didn't like that in the beginning, and then it's starting to grow on me now.
Yeah.
Um, so that's my number 4 album. My number 3 is The Off Season by J. Cole. So I think, as I might have said earlier in a different episode, but to me, J. Cole has finally gotten his album. His, you know, Drake's Take Care, Kendrick has multiple, or, you know, his Illmatic or his Reasonable Doubt, his whatever album, you know, people say. J. Cole was one of those artists that was great, but he didn't have any of those albums. You know,
Hmm.
you could argue, you know, what was the second album? Born Sinner, you could argue, is that. So I know you're not a big
Hmm.
fan of 2014 Forest Hills Drive, but some people said that. And I love both of those albums, but those two weren't on the level of a Take Care, or To Pimp a Butterfly, or
Yeah.
MBDTF, or a Reasonable Doubt, or a Illmatic. They weren't. But I think this album is his. I think it cemented his legacy. I think
Hmm.
he's an all time. You know, whether you think he's top 5, top 10, I think he should be in at least everyone's top 15. If not,
Hmm.
he's in my top 10. Um, so I think kind of cemented his place as a legend, I think, in hip hop, with, you know, all these very good albums, and then now this one is just him just rapping. And I think very few people in the world can keep up or rap with J. Cole. So it was nice
Hmm.
to see him, like, because the last few, especially KOD and what was the other one? For Your Eyes Only. They were very storytelling and very focused on the point. And
Hmm.
what people were wanting with J. Cole, early J. Cole, was he used to just rap his ass off, and he finally did that, and people were, you know, everyone responded well, because it's a really good album. And
Hmm.
it was one of my favorite albums at the time when it dropped. It was my favorite album, and then obviously the next 2 came out after.
Hmm.
But it's a really good album, and that's my
Hmm.
number 3. My number 2 was, which I said at the time when we talked about our albums of the year so far, was I was my number 1 at the time, is The Melodic Blue by Baby Keem. I
Hmm.
love that album. I think his style is so unique. He reminds me of a young version, a mix of between Kendrick and Kanye, with his, you know, style of like production style and song composition of a Kanye, but his voice and his use of metaphors, and uh, his use of just different words, like, you know, different, like, mean, or different words that you wouldn't use. Like, I know Kendrick says, like, what is it on like something like an Atari on what's the song, Poetic Justice. He said something like an Atari, like, but he meant like playing a game with a girl, like that, like something
Hmm.
like. And that's what Baby Keem does for, like Kendrick. So I'm a really big fan of Baby Keem. He had the 2 songs of Kendrick on that album I love. song with Travis Scott I'm a big fan of. Coco I'm a big fan of. 16 is one of my favorite songs of the year. Also, that's probably an honorable mention. 16 I think is great. And there's Issues is I think a phenomenal song by him as well. So I think I think it might be his debut album or his second album. I think it's really good, and he's young, and I'm excited to see what he has keep in the future, what he's going to keep releasing. So that was my number 2 album, and then my number 1. I think you can kind of predict what it is at this point. It's Donda, man. Donda's it gets better every goddamn time. It's phenomenal. It's one of his best albums. It's so good, and it's long as shit. I'm not going to take that away. It is fucking. It's too long, but like if you take there's so many great songs on that album, and it's just there's the great songs. They all sound different too. It's not one style, and that's one thing that Kanye's been great at is, you have a song like Come to Life, and then you have a song like Off the Grid, you have a song like Praise God, and then you have a song like Believe What They Say, or you have a song like Jail, and then you have a song like Remote Control. Like that's what he's always been like that, but it's just I think it's a phenomenal album, and I think he did it again, and I personally think it's going to be either him or J. Cole for the Rap Album of the Year Grammy, which has been postponed if you didn't see the Grammys. So yeah, that to me, Donda's the best hip hop album of the year. I know I'm biased, but that shit's good, man.
Awesome.
So yeah,
cool. Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of the things that you said about each album. I think this might be the first year ever where I don't have a Drake album in my top 5. But I totally agree with you on Certified Lover Boy in terms of the fact that it has grown on me too. I think that still for the time that it was released, it was still a little bit disappointing to me, and I think it'll always stay that way. But once you kind of get past the fact that it wasn't what everybody had hoped for or what everybody expected of, and you just start to just listen to it just to listen to it, I think that you find out a lot of the songs on it are actually pretty good. So it has grown on me. I would agree with you on that. And then some of the albums that you talked about are actually also in my top 5 as well. So I agree with a lot of what you said on those as well. So my number 5 is actually J. Cole with The Off Season, for 2 reasons. I think that personally, to me, this is his best album. I don't think that there's any debate in terms of just my opinion about it. To me, there's no debating that this is his best album to me. I think that this is also kind of, for me, a resurgence for him in a little bit of a way, because I really liked his first 2 albums, The Sideline Story and then Born Sinner. I thought that those were good albums. I wouldn't say that they're great. They definitely couldn't compete with Drake's at the time. They couldn't compete with Kendrick at the time. He was kind of more in almost the same lane as maybe a Big Sean in a way. But obviously, J. Cole has kind of been a little bit more successful since then, and Sean's kind of almost had a little bit of a regression. But I think that was a resurgence for him, because as much as I don't want to say that I hated 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I didn't hate it. I just thought that there were some things that felt half baked, or maybe you could have done a little bit more with certain songs, or some songs maybe just shouldn't have been in there. But they also had some really good stuff too. And so I kind of feel like he dipped there a little bit. For Your Eyes Only, I don't think is that bad. It's just, it's not as commercial and as appealing as his other work has been. So in a way, that's kind of a regression in terms of what he started off doing and what what he was doing at that time. I think it's a good album in terms of a public, kind of political thing. But it wasn't as up to par as his first 2. And then KOD, that to me, that's his worst album. I think that's personally his worst album for me. So I think it's kind of a resurgence for him in terms of the off season, and kind of just how he's kind of able to get back to the old form that he was in when he first started his career. So it was nice to see that. It was refreshing. And I liked a lot of the songs on there. Now, you know that there are some songs on there where I'm like, hey, like you kind of stole this guy's beat or whatever like that. So that's maybe why it's in my top 5 or my 5 spot instead of like a little bit higher. But I do think overall the body of work has been really good. And I think that I agree with what you said. Like, I think this was like the album that like shows that he's a force to be reckoned with when it comes to those other guys who came up at the same time as him and just were consistently better for a while, you know. And in a way you can kind of like almost compare, like Drake started off really hot and is now kind of like going down, whereas, you know, J. Cole, it took him a while to get to this point, and now he's there. Now he has that album. So so I agree with what you said about that album. I think it's great, and I'm glad to see him kind of get back into his form a little bit. My number 4 spot is an album that I talked about briefly when I was talking about my top 10 songs, but this album is by Slow Tie, and it's called Tyrant. And I think that it's a really good album. And, you know, if you're into like kind of that grime scene, I think that he's a really good artist to look out for. You know, obviously people focus a lot on like the Stormzy's and the Skeptas and kind of the guys who kind of founded the grime and kind of made it popular. But Slow Tie's really good. He's a really good artist, and he is really deep. Like his lyrical messages in a lot of his songs are very, very deep and personal, and you know, just like gut punching and heart ripping and stuff like that. So so he's a really good artist, and you know, he's kind of not known by a lot of people, so definitely give that a shot if you're looking for something new, because it's a really good album. I was very pleased with it. Another group in my 3rd spot, another group that doesn't get a lot of hype from a lot of people, but I think that my 3rd album is by Brockhampton, Roadrunner.
As soon as you said group, I was like, all right, I know who it is.
Yeah, no, I really like this group a lot. I've liked them for a while, but this album to me, I think, is their best, and I think that it's just a really great group of tracks. And I'm not going to compare them to this other group, but I kind of have the same interest level as with Brockhampton as I do with like Wu-Tang. And the reason,
really.
Yeah, and the reason why, like, again, I'm not going to compare Brockhampton to Wu-Tang. Like, Wu-Tang is clearly better, but in terms of like what makes Wu-Tang so appealing to me a lot of the times is just the different personalities that are in that group, right? Like you got your RZAs, and then you got Raekwon, then you got Ghostface, but then you got ODB, and you have, you know, just a whole bunch of different personalities, Method Man. And you kind of get that same thing with Brockhampton. Like you get Kevin Abstract, who's just a great hip hop artist. And you get this guy, Merlin, who is like a rapper, but he's got like this like Jamaican accent. So it's like his own personality. And then you got this guy Joba, who's like this like blonde bowl cut white kid who is from Texas, who can rap pretty well, but he's also like super like hardcore punk and shit like that. So so there's just so many guys in that group, and they just add such a good personality, or you know, they just add good personalities to each other, and they kind of complement each other well, but they give you such a different perspective of just all the different types of personalities that you can have in hip hop. So so I really like this album a lot, and I like this group, and I think that they did a really good job on this album. So that's my number 3. My number 2 and my number 1, these are hard to go back and forth with, but at the end of the day, for right now, and it'll probably change, you know, 10-20 times over the course of the years, but for right now, my number 2, I'm gonna keep with Nas, King's Disease 2. I do think it's better than King's Disease 1. There's so many great songs on it, and you're absolutely right. Like he is, in a sense, he's better than what he's been in recent years. It's almost like we're getting taken back to like the Illmatic It Was Written days, with just some of the shit that he's doing. And I think, again, teaming up with Hit Boy for every track is great for him. Like they fit so well together. So I love every song with EPMD 2. I love No Brunch on Sundays. Like that's just a great like feel good song. I love the song with Lauryn Hill, Nobody. So I just, you know, a lot of great stuff there. And, you know, it's tough to not put it in my number 1, but I think what holds it back a little bit is just the fact that, to me, like Nas is, you know what you're getting with him, right? You know that you're getting like just some good straight rapping, right? And while most of his tracks are good, sometimes the tracks don't always stand out to me as like, oh yeah, I remember this song, or like I remember this beat in this song, or I remember this line that he said in this song. Like he has so much to say, and everything just works so well for him that sometimes you just kind of are used to the fact that, oh yeah, this sounds really good, or oh, this is a really good song. And I think that's why it's in number 2. And for me, the spot that I put for number 1 is kind of like the opposite of that. Like I think every song in my number 1 spot is just, it's so good to me. Like it's just so catchy. It's so like the flow is just great. You know, the collaboration between these two guys is just so awesome. So with that being said, for me, number 1 is Voice of the Heroes by Lil Baby and Lil Dirk. Like I
Wow.
can't get enough of that album, and I don't know what it is, but I just find that's the album that I keep revisiting from 2021. Is I just keep going back to that. Yes, I love Nas, I love Brockhampton, I love Slow Tie, J. Cole. I'll even put on the Drake album every now and then, but I listen to Voice of the Heroes probably once a week. Like, no doubt. I probably listen to
Wow.
that album once a week, either in my car or just like hanging out at home, playing video games or whatever. But to me, like, there's just so many good, just banger songs. There's so many catchy hooks. There's so many great one-liners. There's so many great, like Lil Baby does a verse and then Lil Durk comes with a verse, and they fit so well. And again, like there's nothing too like lyrically, there's nothing that like jumps out at you like, oh man, that was a great bar, or the beat is like, oh, you know, that's just like an average regular beat. But just the way it all fits together for me is what makes it my favorite album of the year. I can't get enough of it. I don't really know what it is yet, but I can't get enough of it, and I just love it. So that's why it's my number 1.
Nice. And that is probably my number 6. That like would come in. That would have been like if we had one more. I do really like that album a lot. That was a really good album. I was not expecting that to be your number 1.
Threw a curveball at you.
Yeah, I was expecting 2 and 1 to be switched. Awesome. So the last part, and this will probably be, I think, quicker, at least on my end, for the artists, just the top 5 artists who had the best year. So I went first last time. So you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. This was a tough one for me. This list for me is kind of like 50% like stats and 50% just how I feel and what I like. So, so my number 5 spot, I put Lil Baby. I think, you know, kind of going off of what I said about his album with Lil Durk, I thought, you know, that was my favorite album of the year. I think a lot of people enjoy that album. It may not be everybody's favorite, but I think, you know, everybody can at least say that it's a good record. But Lil Baby's like the thing now, man. Like everybody loves him, whether you're listening to that album or you're listening to some of his solo stuff. Like he's the real deal, and he gets all the streams, he gets, you know, all the views and everything. So, you know, so he's climbing up the ladder of being like the guy in hip hop. So,
Yep.
and some people might even argue that he's already there, which, you know, I would totally agree with. But yeah, like he's just the guy right now. So I have to give him a spot on the list there. My number 4 spot, I'm actually gonna go with Lil Nas X. I think that having his debut album come out is a big deal. I think people have been waiting for that. I think, you know, just, you know, again, the whole, you know, kind of controversy that comes with all of his like music videos and stuff like that. I think that that's, you know, plays a big role in like who he is. So the fact that he now has like his first like major debut album under his belt, I think that was a big thing. And I think that was a big deal for a lot of people in hip hop. So, so I have to give him the 4th spot there. Number 3, I'm going to go with J. Cole. Kind of like basically what I already said before about his album. Just, you know, a resurgence for me. A lot of people, you know, think that is his best album to date. A lot of people really like that album. You know, you kind of said earlier that it was kind of like the album that kind of solidified him as a great, and I don't disagree with that. So I think just that alone has kind of helped him have a great year this year. So, and you know, if he does end up winning the Grammy for best hip hop album, then that just adds to the fire. So, so I got to give J. Cole the 3rd spot. Same thing can be said about the Grammy for my number 2 spot. And I'm actually going to say Kanye West in this list here. I think Kanye West, when you talk about the promotion of Donda and just like everything that led up to the album, you know, all of the listening parties and the whole, you know, thing with how whatever his I forgot what label he's on, but the label dropped the album before he gave them permission to drop it, and just all of that stuff. And then, you know, the album comes out, and, you know, first off, it's all edited, so there's no like, you know, swearing or anything like that. And then you have, you know, the Drink Champs interviews that all go with this. So, you know, say what you want about Donda. Some people don't like it, some people love it, some people think it's his best work. But no matter what you think about the album, Kanye was a big player in hip hop this year. Like he was the talk of the town. So so you got to give him credit for that. And I put him in number 2. And then my number 1, I got to give it to my man Nas and Hit Boy. Like two albums in 3 years. What can you say? You know, what can you say? And 2 albums this year. Both are phenomenal. I think they're great. And, you know, we talk about a resurgence for J. Cole. I kind of think that this is a little bit of a resurgence for Nas too. Like, I think that he was doubted a lot, particularly in like, you know, the like maybe 10 years before these albums came out. And I think now he's just he's back to kind of putting in everything he's got. And he's teamed up with somebody who can really help his career and help his music. And I can't say enough. Like, to me, Nas and Hit Boy were just, they put in the work this year. And, you know, I'm sure there's other people who are deserving of the number 1 spot, but to me, it's a little bit biased. And I have to go with those guys because they just did such a great job with those 2 albums that they made. And I can't really say anything else bad about them. They did a phenomenal job this year. So that's my number 1 spot.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. We have definitely a few of the same ones. Number 5 is Lil Dirk for me. Lil Dirk has been on a run, and I don't think he released an album this year. I'm pretty sure. No, he just had the Lil Baby album, Lil Baby, and his features. He actually was the rapper with the most Billboard Hot 100 entries this year, or 21. So that alone, I feel like he just had a big year. He's been everywhere, and honestly, not a resurgence, but an emergence. He's been around for almost a decade, and he's been around. Right. He's been known. I remember hearing about him in college. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And then now he's arguably the second, like, of these current rappers, the second biggest one besides Lil Baby. I think he's like really big right now. He's you know, he's the voice. So I Lil Dirk, I think, had a huge year, and he's coming in number 5 now. Number 4 is actually the hero, Lil Baby. He's everything you said, I agree with. He's the guy. I think he's the guy right now. Because he's not, you know, he might not be the biggest, but the biggest are the legends. So they're already cemented. Lil Baby's obviously not cemented yet. So Lil Baby's, I think, the guy now. And we'll talk about this in the next episode about how big he is. And he's just the album, obviously, the features. He's the hottest feature artist right now. He had a big tour this year, which I wanted to go to, but I didn't. It was right down the block from me. And he's just a big artist, and 2022 is probably just going to be just as big, if not bigger, for him. So we'll see. And in 2020, he was Apple Music Artist of the Year. He had the most streams in 2020. So, and in 2021, he had a huge year, and then it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. So he's my number 4 artist, and you can't deny him on that. Number 3, I have where you had number 5, J. Cole. I think J. Cole, we talked about the album already, but also I think his tour, very few artists went on tour this past year, obviously with the whole COVID pandemic going on. And Lil Baby, obviously, like I said, was one of them, but J. Cole had an arena tour, and he was also been headliners at 2 different Rolling Louds, and they were both great performances. And he's had some good features. He's had some, you know, his album was great, and he's just really, like, this was his year. He cemented himself as a legend, and you know, a top 10, top 15 hip hop artist of all time. So this was just a huge year overall for him, and I think he just had a great year. Number 2, and he's usually in your top 2. I think Drake had a huge year because he's Drake. I think his album obviously he had the biggest debut album of the year. In hip hop, Kanye was number 2 at a debut, and he doubled that in his debut week. So like you doubled number 2, like that's wild. He had over his album went gold first week. It was 600 something thousand this first week. Like even whatever you say about the album or Drake, he still puts up the numbers somehow. It's unreal. It's someone like like a Jordan. You just don't see it often. Someone putting crazy numbers like this, or Tom Brady's doing it still. He's still doing it. So I just think Drake, Certified Lover Boy, the project itself, his album might have not been that great, but I just think that how big Drake is, and the Larry Hoover concert he did, and just his, he has features that he was on. I think he just had a big year, and just that one's more even than just the numbers, but that's Drake is numbers. So he had a huge year. And then number 1 is kind of like my number 1 album, Kanye, and kind of everything you said, on top of the Larry Hoover concert, which is also a big thing. So he just, Drink Champs, the Larry Hoover concert, his 3 listening parties, his run, his it's weird. He has like a chokehold on like culture, where it's like when he's dropping an album, where it's like, when is it going to drop? When is it gonna, and he's held on for weeks and weeks, and everyone, I was a person, he kept suckering me in, and then he finally drops it. he captivates the culture. He's one of those few people in especially entertainment that can do that, and he still does that 20 years later. So he I think was clearly in hip hop the biggest artist of the year, and let alone the actual body of work, the art, but just everything that went around with it, the captivating the culture with the album listening parties, and then the Drink Champs and Larry Hoover and everything else that he went along with it. I think the masks, he was just wearing masks all of a sudden.
Sorry, you get a little
You good? You hear me? How about now? He had the masks, and you can hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. So he had like the masks he was just randomly wearing, and he just was in the news a lot, but he's always in the news a lot. But yeah, I just think he was the biggest hip hop artist of the year. And he had a big 21, and we'll probably see him in 2 years, and I'll have a big 23. So so that's my biggest artist of the year. So that was a recap of 2021. Everyone, let us know what you think. Who are your top artists of the year? Who are your top albums of the year? What were your top songs of the year? Let us know in the comments and the DMs and the tweets. Let us know. We'd love to hear it. So end the show, we always wrap it up. But before we wrap it up, I am reviewing Eve by Rhapsody. And I'll just start by saying she's the best current female rapper. It's not even a debate, I don't think. She's this generation's Lauryn Hill. She's really fucking good. My only previous exposure to her was maybe a single a year or 2 ago, and then obviously on Complexion, on To Pimp a Butterfly. That was really my only exposure to her. So I was kind of didn't know much about her going into it, and it's a really good album. Like I said, she's like the Lauryn Hill of this generation. This album was really good. Some of my favorite tracks were Nina, Cleo, Serena, Maya, Michelle, and Iman. I like the track list titles, as you mentioned. I think it was cool how, she had, like I said, Cleo, Oprah, Serena, Michelle, and then there's other ones on there too that are clearly, calling out, her idols or people who influenced her. To me, her beat selection is either great or it's a miss. It's some of them are like, her beat selection is phenomenal, and then other ones, her beat selection is I feel like you could have picked a better beat or went with a different direction on that song. Okay. So yeah, to me, her beat selection is hit or miss on the album. Some of her beats I think are fire, and then some I think are either she's trying to go for something different and she kind of just the beat didn't execute well, and I just don't, some of the beats I just wasn't too fond on. But like I said, the songs, like her songwriting and her flow is phenomenal. So hers or rappers, really, she's great. Um, the themes and the subject matter are great on this album. I think her, you know, what she's talking about, the being a black woman in this country and being a female rapper who's not, doesn't need to show her body or shake her ass to sell records and make her point, I think is phenomenal. And she does it very well. She's very articulate. She's, talking, like I said, about being intellectual, not being just about sexual, and a strong woman. And I'm definitely going to listen to her some more. And what I wanted to ask you was, what else do you think I should listen to of hers?
Yeah, so she has another good album, and it's not one that I've listened to a lot in terms of like I've listened to Eve a lot more than I listened to her other album, but her other album is called Layla's Wisdom, and
Okay.
that's another good album. I think that was probably her first like major label debut. So I think that's a really good album too. I think Eve is kind of more like, in a sense, like mainstream a little bit more. Like I think like kind of like what you said, like she's trying to go for certain things to kind of make it a little bit more appealing to like everybody. Whereas I think Layla's Way is kind of, or I forgot what it was called already. Layla's Wisdom. Layla's Wisdom is kind of more just like, she's rapping, she's kind of more like underground, like, just kind of doing more less mainstream rap. So so if you liked Eve, I would definitely check out Layla's Wisdom. That's another good album from her.
Yeah, it was a really good album. I definitely wasn't surprised, but
Mm,
because I kind of, going just off of the one verse I heard from her, it was,
yeah.
it's a great verse. So I knew
Right.
I knew the type of artist going into it,
Mm,
but I was very happy and very, uh I thought the album was really, really good album. And I
yeah.
think she's a really good artist. And like I said, she's the best current rapper I've heard, female rapper.
Hmm.
I don't think I haven't, and there are others out there, but to that level of, or
Right.
that, of publicity, how many people know her? I've heard of her, but I just never listened to her. Obviously
Right.
people know the Megan Thee Stallions, the Doja Cats, the Cardi B's, the Sweeties. They
Hmm.
don't hold anything to her. Even Megan Thee Stallion is probably the best rapper out of them. She's not even close to her. So she's a
Right.
really good rapper, and this is a really good album. And I'm happy I listened to it. I'm definitely gonna listen to Layla's Wisdom uh,
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would agree. She's very much like the our generation of Lauryn Hill. I think that it's also cool because she's another one from North Carolina, which is like,
Yeah,
again, becoming like a huge thing now with,
a
you
hotbed,
know, yeah, with like J. Cole, Moray,
the
her,
baby.
and then the baby, exactly. So like North Carolina's coming up, and yeah, she's just really great. Really, her wordplay is like top notch, and um, I think it's on the song Cleo, where like you get those small little gunshot sounds every now and then when she says
Yeah,
something about like shooting back. I'm like, oh man, that's cold blooded right there. Like, so yeah, I would agree. She's not like your Nicki Minaj or your Megan Thee Stallion or Doja Cat. She's not like that. She's a little bit more, hardcore. I thought the song with Jizza was awesome. I don't know
yeah,
if you
that's a good
talked about
song.
I don't know if you talked about that when you were kind of spotty a little bit, so I didn't hear everything you said. But that song with Jizza, I mean, it's a good song. But I was also just like, to have Jizza do a feature for you, that means that you are doing something right. Because Jizza,
Yeah,
when was the last time Jizza did a feature? Probably on a Wu-Tang album. So it's like,
yeah,
so yeah, she's just great. She's a breath of fresh air for sure, and she's young,
yeah,
so she's gonna have a lot more projects to come. So
definitely. Awesome. I think this was a great pick, and I'm like I said, I'm gonna listen to her more. Layla's Wisdom. I'm gonna download that when we're done here. I'm excited to listen to more of her. She was good.
sweet.
Um, so now it's my time to give you an album, and it's definitely a similar artist to Rhapsody. He's a male though, but he's definitely uh more lyrical, more, not as mainstream. And we talked about him already, and he has an album coming out soon. So I want you to listen to this album, "The Lost Boy" by Corday.
Right.
Uh, the album's so goddamn good, and I'm really excited for you to listen to him, and his lyrics. He's really, really good. So that
All
is
right.
the album for you reviewed for next week. "The Lost Boy" by Corday.
Cool. Awesome. I'm excited. You know how much I like my lyrics. So
Yeah,
so I'm definitely interested. And it's also good too, because like if I end up liking it, then like I don't have to wait very long for some more stuff because he's dropping soon,
perfect.
right? So
Yeah, you're gonna
perfect.
get one album, and then next week you'll be like, oh wow, I get to listen to a brand new project of his. If you like it, I think you will, but no
Okay,
guarantees here. Uh,
cool.
so yeah, awesome. So next week I will review the Lost Boy by Corday.
Sweet.
So wrapping up the show, as always, follow us on Instagram at the Hip Hop Debate. YouTube, we are also the Hip Hop Debate, our channel. Um, Twitter, we debate hip hop. Let us know what you think of our topics. Always suggest topics. Let us know what you thought about the topics this episode. Like I said earlier, what are your top songs, artists, and albums of the year? Let us know. Subscribe wherever podcasts are available. We're on all streaming platforms. If you're on a streaming platform and our podcast is not available, let us know. We'll make sure to get it on your platform. Subscribe on YouTube. Get those subscriptions up. We're getting these videos out there, and we hope you guys enjoy. So, as always, it's been real, and see you next time. Deuces.
Peace.